Welcome to another great edition of Plank of the Week, and I think even anyone who has only just landed here from Mars might know who the Plank of the Week is going to be, but we're not going to announce it first, we're going to announce it at the end. However, I'm joined by Patrick Christys, who hasn't, I think, ever been in this studio with us, have you?
No.
But you've been on Plank of the Week a couple of times when we've had you on virtually, so welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Belinda DeLucy is also with us. Lovely to see you, looking fabulous. I think we're allowed to say that on Plank of the Week, despite the fact that there may be laws against it. You know, I had to compliment somebody the other day and I wasn't sure if I could do it. And I said,
carry on,
do you mind if I compliment you?
Please.
She was like, okay. Anyway, it's been quite a week for Matt Hancock, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's going to fight over who gets to nominate whoever does do Matt Hancock. But I think Patrick sort of got in first.
Yes.
So we're going to let him do it.
Yes, absolutely.
So come on.
Well, it's been a quiet week.
Tell us why Matt Hancock's
What's he done? Boring week for him.
Yeah, no, he's had a busy week. He burnt his marriage to the ground in full view of the British public, which I thought was
funny enough. He was actually on Plank of the Week last week. I think he came 4th or 5th last week.
Really?
Little did we know.
He's rising up in the charts.
Making a bid for the big spot.
He is. He tested and tracked and traced Gina's tonsils and then got pinged. So here we are. But yeah, he apparently even had to wake his 8-year-old kid up to say sorry.
That was a nice touch, wasn't it?
Yeah. So better wake the kids up.
Yeah.
So anyway,
presumably the kid was going, "What are you doing home at this time? You're normally out with that other woman."
Late at work.
Working night and day. Yeah, right.
He gave a whole new meaning to being hard at work.
It did, absolutely
you can't ever use that phrase again because wives are going to go,
I'm never going to be able to say that ever again now.
I think the real story here is that Matt Hancock found 2 women who were willing to kiss him. He was already punching with his wife Marta, the lovely
think so.
Marta.
Yes, she was gorgeous.
And the idea that it was doing the rounds, wasn't it, about like, oh well, you know, of course you'd have to say yes to Gina. To me, she was like a slightly wealthier Gail Platt. I don't really think there's much
Well, I
quality
mean,
there.
I think it's a bit unfair to suggest that just because you don't fancy her, other people wouldn't. But you know, the fact is, she's not a bad-looking woman, but he certainly is not any kind of a hunk of a bloke, is he?
No, he's a big giant man baby. I can't imagine getting my.
Is he actually? I've never been up close to him. How tall is he? Because he didn't look very tall either.
Well, he isn't very tall. He looks like the type of man who wears Cuban heels, doesn't he? And but I imagine, you know, watching that.
Well, he wears that pale blue suit as well, doesn't he?
All the time.
Which is, I give Sir Keir Starmer a hard time. He's always wearing that blue suit, which is the same colour as this, funnily enough. But he wears a sort of pale blue suit, which is sort of the kind of thing you wear at Butlins, isn't it? Is it?
That's probably his best suit as well.
Yeah.
It's the forbidden fruit, though. Whether you find them attractive or not, the two of them both married, both with 3 children, I think. And the forbidden fruit element is going to get anyone going in Parliament. It was far worse in Brussels, by the way. You know,
I'm sure.
Makes
because everybody's further away from home.
Everyone's, I mean, it's a massive in Brussels, to be honest.
In fact, there actually was one, wasn't there?
Yeah, the Hungarians.
The Hungarians.
The Hungarians had to escape out the window because the police raid on their orgy.
It's a massive gay orgy.
Sniffing around everyone in Brussels. It's awful.
There's not much else to do in Brussels. I mean, I've
long
been there.
lunches and shagging.
Yeah, exactly right. There's nothing happening.
Again,
there's nothing else going on. Of course. No.
Yeah. There's a lot to this Matt Hancock stuff, though, obviously. The fact that the camera was there, which he must have known about and clearly didn't care.
Right.
So that was quite bad. Also, the lack of actual apology. So he first came out and went, "Oh, I've broken the rules. Sorry about that." What about your wife?
He didn't even say he'd broken the rules. He said that he was sorry for breaking the social distancing guidelines.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think you did a bit more than that, mate.
Yeah, you certainly did.
You know, I've never heard it called that before.
When he went
How do you fancy breaking the social distancing guidelines? You know, that's one of the great chat-up lines.
Yeah. But it's when he went back. It's when he went back home, and like Marta hadn't just set fire to his clothes on the front lawn and made him pick them up in full view of the British media.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering how it went, you know, because he knocks on the door. Oh, hello, darling. Sorry, I'm not staying. There's going to be a story in the Sun tomorrow. Oh, really? What's he going to say? It's going to say that I'm having an affair with another woman. Really? Oh, okay. Well, what are you going to do about that? I'm leaving you.
Yeah.
And you go, what?
Yeah.
Oh, I better go and tell the kids. I mean, what an absolutely horrendous way to do it. I mean, you know, people split up. I don't think people would expect people not to split up, but there are ways of doing it.
Yeah. But also, like, the fact that it's obviously just knock on the kid's door. Oh, Daddy's come for a bedtime story.
Story, Daddy.
You got the hungry caterpillar.
So sad.
You know.
The hungry caterpillar.
The very Randy Health Secretary.
Yeah, right.
There's a book in the making right there.
Get
Maybe
Meghan
not for
Markle on the
children.
case, yeah.
But you're right, it's terribly, desperately sad for the children. And when he said, I'm putting my family first. No, mate.
No.
If you were putting your family first, perhaps you'd keep your chipolata in your pants.
Or at least,
and
he would go, all right, I've been found out, but I'm not going to leave my family.
Yeah, I'm going to beg for forgiveness and talk to the children. None of that. I'm off on my bike.
It didn't take him long, did it? I mean, from literally getting a phone call from the Sun to about another hour later, he was off.
But I think that's what sums him up as, for me, fundamentally quite a weak man. Right? I think part of me thinks that one of the reasons why he's just immediately left her is because he actually didn't want to have those difficult conversations. He's just gone, right, I'm off, and that's it. I also just think, one thing we've not touched on is just the utter contempt for the rules that he's made.
Yes.
And that's quite
Well,
bad.
that's really why he had to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most people now in this country don't really care what he does with his genitalia. You know, I mean, I don't really want to think about it. But I mean,
much of it.
you can't do much with it. That's for sure. But the point is that, we are sort of beyond all that now, aren't we? We sort of look at people who have affairs and just go, oh, well, it's not necessarily a resigning offence or anything like that. But it was the contempt, as you say, that with which, because on that very day, which was May the 6th, it was when he was telling people not to hug their relatives.
Yeah, he was basically the puritanical sex cop.
And you were supposed to stay 2 metres apart in the office.
We know what stayed 2 metres apart.
The other thing that bothers me about it, right, is that I want to see what happens next. Not because I've got any voyeuristic tendencies, but I think they make use of the office facilities, shall we say, to carry on their affair in a way which can only be thought about and not really, described.
Yeah.
Because, they couldn't go to a hotel, could they? You can't walk into a hotel with Matt Hancock, on your arm, and everyone goes, oh, look, there's Matt Hancock with someone who's not his wife. So they must have been up to no good presumably in the office.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And that's one piece of footage that I don't need to see. Although I think I'd have to watch it. I don't think I couldn't not watch it.
It's like Phoebe from Friends. My eyes. You cannot unsee it.
Yeah, and on repeat over and over.
Did you see there was all sorts of versions of the video going around, but there was one with Alan Partridge doing his thing. Do you like that? Should I do that more? Do you like that? It was very funny.
But the whole problem is when you run off with your...
Shall I use the other hand? Really funny.
Oh, do you want a bit of Radio Tokyo? I mean, we could go on forever.
We could. We absolutely
could. Be a whole Monty Python scene, a whole musical about this. But the problem with going off with your mistress, as Jimmy Goldsmith said, it's like when you marry your mistress, you create a job vacancy. If you're a love rat, you kind of,
Well, that's always been Boris Johnson's methodology, isn't it? And of course, we were all laughing because you thought, can you imagine the scene where Boris Johnson say to Matt Hancock, look, Matt, the thing is, you can't really just have an affair with somebody and expect to keep your job. No. You can't. Or maybe he was the one that said you'd have to marry her.
Maybe,
maybe. Because that's what he always does.
Just to go to Mustique, right? Yeah. Go to Mustique, put a rock on it, it'll be fine, absolutely,
But why didn't Boris sack him? That's what I don't get. Now he's claiming he has.
He's now claiming he did sack him when clearly he did not sack him. The one thing he didn't do was sack him. He absolutely said, I consider this to be the end of the matter.
I couldn't believe it. What has Matt got on you, Boris?
Because actually nothing was different from Saturday to Friday. Nothing, because I assumed when it broke on Saturday night that there must have been something coming out in one of the Sunday papers which was going to be completely damning and which would have completely blown him out of the water. But there wasn't really.
No, there wasn't.
So there was no new story. It was just the same story, but loads of MPs had said to Boris, we've had non-stop emails from our constituents saying, you've got to get rid of this guy.
I do think as well now that the government has a massive problem, which is that the idea that anyone from government can look any of us in the eye now and tell us that we have to abide by any rules, any kind of lockdown extension.
I mean, I've been waiting for somebody to tell me to do something since Friday. And nobody has. Because I'm just going to go, really? You think?
Well, I got a call last week from the NHS people because I was in quarantine because I got back from a little trip, and the day after, I had a nice quick little girls' trip.
Why didn't you just say from UEFA?
Well, I know I did. I just said to the lady said, can I confirm you're isolating?
Buy one of the Euroballs, carry it around and go, I'm with UEFA.
I'm free.
And also make sure you have a. Have you seen what they did to Wembley? They've used they've taken all the plugs out. And they've put in European plugs, European sockets.
No, they haven't.
Because UEFA have said, basically this is a UEFA event. Most of the people here have got European plugs, so that's what we're going to do.
Oh my gosh. And they're the ones about to ban us all. This is the problem.
Well, we'll come back to that.
But the rules mean nothing now, clearly, because if he was frightened of COVID, if any of the people in government were frightened of COVID, they wouldn't have had a party in Cornwall. They wouldn't have allowed everyone to mix at Wimbledon and all these. They're not frightened of COVID, neither should we be.
No,
so
and I'm told, and I haven't been inside Downing Street, but I'm told that inside Downing Street, there's absolutely devil may care. Do what you like. Nobody's wearing masks. Nobody's social distancing at all. They're sitting around. They've got a tea area. Apparently, they've got like a little cafe. They all sit there. They wander about freely. There's no question of them obeying the rules.
There's a video of Matt Hancock wearing a mask on his way into Downing Street, and just as they close the door behind him, he's taking it off.
Yeah, it's the hypocrisy of it people hate, and I don't blame them for being angry. And I think a lot of people have a right now to just go sod the rules.
And a lot of people are already doing that.
Yeah.
Now, I would normally come to you next, but the reason I'm going to go next is is because I'm doing Gina.
Oh, yes.
Because I think, in true sort of equality style, she's just as much to blame as he is.
Absolutely.
And don't forget, she's also got 3 kids, right? But here's why she's a plank, and it's Gina Coladangelo. As I said, it sounds like something like Soprano.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony!
Give me a
Gina!
Gina!
What are you doing? She's from Hackensack, New Jersey. And she's left a millionaire, right? The guy that runs Oliver Bonus, or Oliver Boner, as I called it.
Boner and Hancock.
And he's obviously not much good either. But at least he's loaded. She's left him for Matt Hancock, who's now on an ordinary MP salary, which is still okay, but it's not millionaire level. No. They won't be going to Mystique anytime soon.
No, they won't be.
And also, she's clearly a plank, having met him at college and known him for years and years and years, and only now suddenly realised what an absolutely marvellous, amazing man he is.
Yeah. Exactly.
Could it be because he's in the government?
Yeah.
Could it be because he's the Secretary of State for Health? I don't think she's going to fancy him when she finally wakes up and goes, oh, he's just an MP for Suffolk.
Reality's going to hit.
And he doesn't even have that house because he had to give it to his wife.
They're going to be much poorer.
He's going to live in a bedsit in Ladbroke Grove, and that'll be him.
And
he's got to disappear.
It.
And also, how are they going to do the kids, right? He's going to have to see his kids.
Yeah.
She's going to have to see her kids. Yeah. They're not going to have much time together. No. Can you imagine if they all 6 of them at the same time in the bedsit in Ladbroke Grove?
Can you imagine Christmas Day? I mean, this whole thing is going to turn into a bit of a nightmare.
It will
really
be.
sad state for the children.
It really is.
She left 3
children.
But
the haste with which they've done it, And Patrick was saying to me before that the husband was busy helping her pack the stuff and put it in the car. Well, so would I be. I'd be going, cheerio.
On your bike, love.
I think I'd be tempted to maybe set it on fire as well.
Well, he's probably bought the car. He probably owns the car. And she's going to find that he owns quite a lot of things, and she doesn't own anything.
I do think, as well, it's like, when she wakes up, she has to wake up next to Matt Hancock. Matt Hancock's face being the first thing you see every morning, I think would be pretty shocking. But I can see Matt Hancock in that bed sitting in Ladbroke Grove, just constantly 15 pints deep, mourning the loss of his life, ringing Chris Whitty at 4 a.m. Just give me an update, Chris, I miss it.
Because also, what was funny was when he did that final video where he was standing in front of that very large green bush which was moving behind him. I don't know. Well, I kept expecting somebody to come out and grab him and suck him, like The Simpsons, where you just go back into the hedge. And I thought to myself, he still thinks he's a minister because he was talking like, we're so proud of what we're so close. Everything's nearly there, and it's like we don't care anymore what you have to say. I didn't care much before, but now I care even less.
Yeah, and on the serious side, people missed out on funerals of loved ones.
Yeah.
They missed out on deeply they were traumatised because of his restrictions. There were single people everywhere missing out.
Well, some people didn't see their parents before they died.
Exactly, but and this is why people actually, I don't blame them at all for actually hating that, because you can't be the person destroying people's lives, relationships, and then having a completely secret affair and going sod the rules behind closed doors. It's like the bishops in the Bloomer, in Southwark, when they were preaching against temptation but running the brothels behind the back door. You can't do it. People are done with him now. He can't ever come back.
No. I think he should actually resign as an MP, because people will say, I feel a bit sorry for him. But why? This guy's still getting 80 grand a year, which is still a lot more money than most people get. And he hasn't lost his job. He's lost a job, which was paying a little bit more money, but he's now still got a pretty good job, and he doesn't appear to have any sort of sense of remorse whatsoever.
The Queen sat there on her own, mourning the loss of her husband. It was a dreadfully sad picture. And there's Matt, sharing spit and getting his leg over the staff. It's not nice.
It's not. Exactly. It's really not. And who knows whether she's still going to be working for him, because he could be employing her as part of his parliamentary staff. Couldn't he?
Yeah, possibly.
Well, that's the other thing. Well, again, we've essentially funded Matt Hancock's affair.
Yeah.
I could barely fund my own.
Well, he took it to the G7. He took it to not the G7 in Cornwall, I don't think, but there was a G7 health summit somewhere near Oxford. He took it to that.
Yeah.
And so he's presumably charging the room to us. Meanwhile, he's getting his leg away. Leg away? Leg over.
Leg over, away,
his
under.
His end he was getting away. You forget, amongst all of the... you just get so confused.
But please stop bringing that image back doing it to my head.
But you can imagine he's at the health summit, the G7, right, I'll just pop back to the room, and then he comes back down for dinner. After having given her one. I'm sorry. It's not the way to behave.
It's not the way to behave.
In government.
And now it's no longer forbidden. It's not going to have the thrill. So is it really going to be as exciting? I can't imagine the affair lasting.
As I say, I can't imagine... we still don't really know how long it's been going on. But some people say it's been going on for about a year. Other people say it only started a couple of months ago.
Well, it didn't look like a first kiss, did it?
No. He knew where to go.
Also, that business with the... with the sort of checking the corridor.
It looks like a setup.
No.
And it's so carry on. The French do it so well with
Yeah.
their mistresses and everything is very sophisticated.
Right.
And then you've got the English politicians and it's sort of smack and tickle,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, in the corner.
Well, it's
and I
like,
don't know.
well, it is, it's carry on COVID, isn't it? That's what I'm saying.
Well, you know,
Carry
clearly,
on.
like you said, on that day, that was a day they were discussing the restrictions, and increasing restrictions, and essentially continuing to ruin our lives. And something about that really turned her on. I find that weird.
Yeah,
That is a
strange.
bit odd.
It is
Yeah, no, good plank, just for her
I
taste,
think,
basically,
I
Meg.
think so. Yeah, absolutely right. So, who's your first one?
So, yeah, no, my first one is basically Europe's grumpiest dinner lady, Angela Merkel. I can't see her as anything but someone just ladles out gruel.
She does look a bit like that. Yeah.
You know, she's definitely my number one plank today because she's not just banning Brits from Germany, and to be quite
That's
honest,
not enough, is it?
who really cares? Who
No.
really goes there? Oktoberfest maybe, but you know, it's not a big loss to the Brits.
No.
But she is piling the pressure on poorer countries who depend on tourism to ban Brits as well.
Yes.
Now, Germans wielding this baton of Anglophobia, you know, has happened once before. It is not nice, never works out. Countries don't like to be bullied into hating, you know, the UK. We're friends, Spain,
Especially
Greece,
countries
Malta.
like Spain and Greece, where
Yes.
loads of Brits go and spend loads of money.
And Merkel keeps going on. We want you to follow us. You need to adhere to banning Brits too, for no justifiable reason at all. Double vaxxed, no, they still want you banned. And if you come over, you'll be like a plague-ridden red list
Well,
country.
although to be fair, this is also
in
to be
14
laid at the door of Matt Hancock, because it's thanks to him that we've got these huge, ridiculous numbers of infections, which they're calling cases, which they're not, right? They're just positive tests, most of which we know might actually be fake.
And in Germany, they only test COVID results. 1.7 gets tested. 1.7% of COVID tests gets tested in Germany for variants. In the UK, it's 50.
Yeah.
So of course we look like we've got loads of variants. Everywhere is riddled with variants. But Merkel has seen an opportunity to bash the Brits again, to punish us because she can't sell the project on its merits anymore. She looks like a frightened, insecure leader thinking, how am I going to protect the project? I will scare all the countries into leaving by really damaging the UK, not caring about Spain's economy or Portugal's economy and how much they depend on tourists. She couldn't give a toot about that. So she's my mega plank.
Yes, I think that's right. And also, to add insult to injury, today, their interior minister, a guy called Horst Seehofer, which is
rolls
great.
off the tongue, doesn't it?
Horst Seehofer. He's apparently said, he's apparently said that he thinks that we shouldn't have enough. We should have as many people as we're going to have at the final of the Euro 2020, because he says it's dangerous. So we're going to have 60,000. He thinks we should only have 40,000. In fact, he thinks better than that. They should only have 20,000 because that's all they've got in Germany. And it's like suddenly, you know, Germany supposedly was the sort of the gold standard, wasn't it, at the beginning, because they were doing it all right. Well, it turns out actually they're in the same boat we are, really. They haven't really done it any better than anybody else. So, you know, I just think they should stop interfering. I mean, the idea, as I said the other day, that Germany is telling us not to, you know, go to Europe, it's kind of ironic, isn't it?
This is what I'm thinking.
Given their history.
Yes, they're literally persuading countries to go into a fight with their friends, and it's not going to work out well for them. She is taking over the EU. They're in control of the coronavirus fund. They've got Ursula in there as president of the Commission.
They're in charge of the rollout of the vaccines.
They're in charge of this is it. And Germany, unfortunately, they can't help themselves but be dominating because they're the most efficient and they think they can sort everyone out.
Well, they're the richest, I suppose, as well, aren't they?
They're the richest, they're Europe's ATM. They bankroll all the countries, but in return, they want power.
Yes.
You'd think it was a joke if it wasn't so ridiculous that the Germans could ever actually make one. But I think it's interesting for people like to live in the European Union, like the Spanish and like the Greeks, etc., etc. Well, you're looking at it and you think, well, hang on a minute, is the EU our friend? You know, they didn't think anything twice about ruining your tourism industry. Now, the vaccine rollout was an absolute disaster initially.
It's still not that great.
Still not that great. They don't even care about just chucking up a border in Ireland with all the consequences that could be there. The European Union is not actually an inherently nice institution.
No.
And our British citizens over there now, they've not reciprocated with a lot of their workers' rights and benefits,
and healthcare and all that sort of thing.
Shocking.
No, it's a lot of very nasty business going on in the EU against the UK at the moment, and Merkel is spearheading it at the moment. Macron, of course, he's a child. He's the most immature politician in the whole of the EU. He was always going to jump on the bandwagon.
He hasn't got much longer for office, though, has he? He's probably going to lose the election
neither has
next
Merkel,
year.
and so both of them, I think, are just trying to stick it to the Brits just before they leave.
Yeah.
Sort of death
she
rattle.
gets there,
That's good. So, very good start then. Patrick, who's your second one?
Right, okay. I'm going to go for the FA.
Okay.
Okay, so I just want them to get out of my life, please. Now, the FA has told me that I can't can't boo. I must kneel, and no, I'm not allowed to sing 10 German bombers in the air. They say it's a nationalist song.
Right.
No, all right, okay, fair enough. Maybe it is a bit fruity. That said, I don't think there's any justification.
It's a football match. It's not a bloody day out at the British Museum.
It's an overtly national-based tournament that we're having now, and it is an international football tournament, right? And crucially, if the Germans hadn't started it, we wouldn't have to. But no, but I do think.
But apparently it's our fault, though.
Yeah.
You know, have you not seen the latest? What was the latest thing from the description of what happened in Dresden? And they've got some guy who's got a statue to it. I can't remember who he is. Some military guy from the Second World War who now has to be having a notation on the statue to say that he was also a war criminal. You know, and you're going, what? And when you start arguing with people on Twitter about this stuff, they go, well, he killed loads of innocent people. And I'm like, well, there was a war on.
Yeah.
You know.
There was some other killing.
There was some other killing happening, yeah.
You tried to terminate a race,
yes.
mates, and we haven't forgotten.
No.
And it's 60 years later, all they get is a bit of a fun song as a protest and waving in the arms.
Yeah.
They literally caused untold misery in our grandparents' lifetime.
Yeah. Well, in the
so
last decade, I mean, not like the last 100 years.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely shocking. I don't think that, I know people harp on about, you must be a bit of a gammon if you're going on about the war. The war was massive.
Yeah.
The war was absolutely huge, right? It was a world war. It was the second one, by the way. I don't know if it refer you to the Germans' earlier work. And, you think,
because they caused the First World War as well, didn't they? Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Who knew?
And now they're trying to re-emerge again as an economic war. Fair enough. But look, I think that Gareth Southgate should focus, frankly, on picking his best 11 because he doesn't know what that is yet. Now, that is his job. Right. Not to write me a letter called Dear England and tell me about how I need to back what is overtly a Marxist organisation in terms of Black Lives Matter because they've got a
Also, we
manifesto.
don't need to take any lessons from Gareth Southgate on anything, really.
No.
You know, he's a footballer. He wasn't a particularly good footballer. He wasn't a particularly good international. He wasn't a particularly good manager. No. He now happens to be managing England because he couldn't find anybody else. Yeah. And they had to sack the last guy because he got caught offering to do things for money that he shouldn't have been doing. These are not people we should be taking any advice from.
No, that is true. He needs to pick his best 11, which he doesn't know what it is. He needs to beat the Germans, and he needs to, if you wouldn't mind, trying to bring it home. Don't lecture me about anything else.
And I need to just say something. You know, the Scots, their bloody national anthem, sorry to swear, is xenophobic, anti-English, all
Flower
about the war, or Flower of Scotland.
It's great, isn't it?
And they're allowed.
It's great.
I love it. I don't mind them singing it to us at all. But we don't cause a fuss. We don't go, you're going to hurt our sensitivities if you sing that song about
I'm sure the Italian
war.
national anthem's got some horrible stuff in it as well, but it's so long that I can't understand it.
The Germans need to put
it goes on for ages.
It does, yeah.
There's bound to be some anti-British stuff in there, for heaven's sake.
If the English can put up with it, then the Germans can.
Absolutely.
To be quite honest, they've got away with it quite easy if that's all they get.
Also, can somebody also tell Gareth Southgate he's not actually anybody's fashion icon either. So he doesn't have to keep wearing weird clothes just to try and make somebody buy them.
No.
Like waistcoats last time. This time it's this thing called a shacket. Right?
Oh, no, don't.
Because apparently it's half shirt, half jacket.
Stop it.
It's not. It's a jacket. It's not a half shirt, half jacket. It's just a bloody jacket.
It's a midlife crisis thing. It is a bit embarrassing.
Yeah, don't let Gina meet him. No. She might move off Matt and onto him.
The next one.
Yeah, because he's still got a bit of power about him, that guy.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
All right, so the FA, your second one?
So my second one is Batley and Spen, the Labour Council there. So not talking about the election.
Not the election,
I'm just talking about Labour Council cancelled a public meeting last Thursday with Lawrence Fox, George Galloway. They were wanting to do a small rally about freedom of speech and democracy.
Yes.
Now, this is in response to the horrific...
Can't be having any of that.
You can't be having any of that.
Freedom of speech.
Not
What,
up
this
north
country?
in Batley and Spen. Free speech
ridiculous.
democracy. You're not having none of that.
No.
Actually, the worst of it is that it was in response to this horrific treatment of this teacher at Batley Grammar School who is in fear of his life. Still in hiding. And the Labour Council, during the Islamist protests outside the school, for 3 days they shut down the school, screaming for his head, basically, in incredibly aggressive mob-like manner.
And they were all agent provocateurs from elsewhere, weren't they? They weren't even from the area.
Exactly, spitting at each other, all crowding round, really intimidating people and frightening teachers. And Labour Council had no problem with that at all. Let it go, let it run. But as soon as there was a little sign of, hang on, this might not be right, and it'd be a good idea if we could just talk about this issue because no one else seems to be. And that poor teacher in an English town in 2021 is scared that he's going to get killed because Islamist charity put his name online and threatened, said this guy is a terrorist.
Right.
And Labour Council don't care. And my issue with this streak, this nasty streak in Labour at the moment, is that they are Islamist apologists. They allow radical Islam to thrive in this country because they think it's a way of getting the vote, which is it's so insulting to the Muslim community.
It also gives
because they're
the
not
explanation
Islamist.
to a large extent extent to why they were so slow to crack down on the anti-Semitism, because that also fed into the same kind of narrative.
But it's all a rampant hypocrisy, right? Because Labour also tries to say that it's the party of LGBTQ+. Well, I'm not being funny, but actually there's been other incidents with that particular community, hasn't there, where outside the school, it was one in Birmingham, a teacher decided basically to try to ask the kids, do you mind not bullying gay people? 300 parents, they brought a mobile billboard with them at one point, you will burn in hellfire.
And of course the leftists didn't know who to back, because they were all confused. They went, Christ, they're all arguing with each other. No.
The LGBTQ,
I'll tell you what, best thing, just back on the bus, we'll all go back to London.
Exactly.
So none of them went on anybody's side, they didn't know what to say.
Owen Jones was just violently ill all over himself.
Self-combobulated and just disintegrated like,
God, absolutely.
Women's rights as well, not being funny, but you know.
Women, Islamists are no friend to women, and they're not even, it's not part of the Muslim faith. This is a political ideology that is nasty and causes deaths and encourages rapes and horrific things around the world. Muslims are the biggest victim group of Islamism and radical Islam. So this isn't something against the Muslim community. We should all be calling out radical Islam. No place in the UK for it. On your bike, son. But Labour are like, you can't criticise a question of and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, you've just shown your true colours, Labour, and you have spat on that wonderful Labour Party I studied back in the 1910s that was all about rights and equal rights. Now you're ring-fencing people from even being questioned or criticised. So the Labour Council, Batley and Spen, second plank of the week.
Excellent. Well, funnily enough, talking of schools, I'm actually going to go for schools in general, because schools in this country are now completely and utterly riven, not just by the fact that they've got idiotic teaching unions who don't actually want to teach anybody anything and want to take some time off and make sure that they're safe and they're not going to die of COVID, right? But the latest figures, and I kid you not, we thought it was bad a couple of days ago, a couple of 100,000. We're now saying that there's something like 375,000 pupils in England currently not in school. 375,000. Now, about 1 in 20, that is, for COVID-related reasons, up by more than 130,000 in a week. Now, I can tell you what's going on here, because I've got 2 kids at school, and they've been doubling up the number of tests. They've been sending more and more kids home, and I don't know what's going on, but something very unsavoury, I think, is going on. And we're being sort of softened up so that the teaching unions will say, we must wear masks even in the autumn term. They're not accepting the fact that the masks are actually damaging the kids. They're not accepting, and also there's quite a few kids, and I mean, I take my hat off to these kids who are deliberately getting themselves sent home because they're just filing a false positive. Because you can actually get a false positive by sticking it into a can of Coke or sticking it in your dog's mouth or up its backside. I mean, you can do any number of things, because most people who are I
won't ask how you find that out.
No. Well, I had to do some of the little tests they gave him, because he's not taking it. But the point is that, there are many, many different ways that it can go wrong. And in fact, the guy who came up with the whole vaccination programme from Oxford has said, kids giving themselves tests is a pointless activity, because they're hardly likely to do it right, even if they're trying to do it right. But more than likely, they're not doing it at all. They're just marking something in online, and they're not doing it in the school anymore. So nobody really knows. So if you want some time off, you just go positive, tick. And then you get your mother to ring the school and you stay home for 10 days. It's unbelievable.
It's awful, and it's damaging. We don't know the damage until I think a few years down the line, because actually children have got out of the habit of learning now and out of the habit of focusing in class, because when they were Zooming, because I had 4 kids at home Zooming, they could be playing on their phone while pretending to be interested in the lesson. They could be distracted. This idea of just being solely focused on your teacher, unfortunately, children are being robbed
also
of that.
now, the ones who are being sent home are not being told that they can do Zoom learning. They're not doing any homeschooling. They're actually just not doing anything. But look at the breakdown. 15,000 of these people are confirmed COVID cases, right, out of 375. Really? 24,000 are suspected cases. I don't even know what that means. Are you suspected of having COVID?
Well, I think I've been suspected of a few things in my life, but I'm not sure about that.
How about this? 279,000 self-isolating due to potential contact in school.
Awful.
279,000, right? So basically 5.1% of pupils absent from COVID, up from 1.2% on the 10th of June. It's unbelievable.
But the knock-on effect of this, presumably parents are having to stay at home a lot more now.
We had a guy ring us the other day who was a plumber, self-employed, doesn't get paid unless he works, has had to stay home to look after one of his kids who's been sent home along with the entire class because somebody tested positive.
I'm worried that it's a way of buttering us up to make it more socially acceptable for us to say that kids should all get the vaccine. Because if they say...
That's a good question, isn't it?
300 and so whatever, how many hundreds of thousands it is that are off now. We can't sustain that, obviously. We can't sustain it economically in terms of the parents' issue that we've just said there. I think all of a sudden it's going to become palatable to people. Go, you know what, should we just give kids the vaccine then?
Wouldn't it be easier if they just took the jab? Which I'm very pro-vaccine, but I wouldn't give it to my children.
I'm not giving it to my children.
Why
no
would
chance.
I've got 4 girls. There's all sorts of talk about sort of it affecting menstrual cycles and things at the moment.
And even if there's a chance of that, why would you?
No.
They're not going to die from COVID.
No. Well, adults,
if they even get it, they're going to be fine.
I don't need a vaccine.
Right.
I don't need it. But I'm very glad that it exists. And the reason why I can say now with confidence I don't need it is because so many other people have been vaccinated. I don't believe I any longer have a public duty to get one in the way that maybe I did before at the height of this. You know, I just don't. But
well, I don't understand the logic of people who say, but you must get it to protect others. No, and you go, well, surely if the others have got it, they're already protected.
That's the point.
Isn't that the logic? I mean, I spoke to Stuart Weir the other day, our friend in Scotland, and he was actually self-isolating. He said, I've got COVID. I said, how do you feel? He said, great. He said, literally, I've never felt better. And I said, where'd you get it? He said, well, my wife had to go to hospital for a procedure of some kind. And obviously, while she was there, caught COVID, brought it back home, gave it to him. And then I spoke to him the following day. I said, how do you feel today? He said, yeah, still fine.
Fine,
you know, and he's my age, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he is in the area where he should feel really, really bad, but he doesn't. Because if he's been vaccinated, there's a pretty good chance that he's not going to be it's not going to be a problem.
I've had the vaccination twice now, and I've had COVID, and I got the antibodies.
Right.
I don't feel more superior or a better person
sort
or
of
any holier. I'm like, go for it. If you're going to give me, I want all the pricks. Actually, no, that's what Gina said.
Matt Hancock's already taken, I'm afraid. You know,
damn, it's gone.
You can't have all the pricks.
But I wouldn't judge anyone else for not taking it. And the idea that children have to take a vaccine that they're not at risk from the virus at all is ridiculous. So I think it's the school unions, of course, a lot of them just don't want to work and they've enjoyed their time off school as teachers.
Well, I speak to a lot of teachers who are not in the unions and they don't have this view at all.
No.
They don't think you should be wearing masks in school.
Yeah.
They want to get rid of also these perspex dividers, which apparently are worse actually than having nothing.
Yeah.
Because what they do is they actually stop the circulation of air. But even that, you're kind of going, well, these kids are all over each other. I mean, you see the state of the toilets in most schools. I mean, there's more germs in there than you can shake a stick at, you know, and they're worried about them breathing on each other.
Well, thank God we need them to mix germs and swap snot now because their immune systems have been so damaged by all these sterile, bleachy type adults who are projecting all their fear onto these little harmless kids. You know, I think the schools have got to sort of man up a bit.
Strange time to be a kid now, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
you know, you're not allowed to talk about what gender you think you might have. You know, you're getting jabbed all the time. You're saying, "Oh, you're going tests. You can't go into school. You can't do this. You can't even look at people."
Yeah.
It's just
you're
crazy.
bad if you're white.
You're bad if you're white.
Yeah.
Imagine an 8-year-old, you know, little Gareth or something like that, when the day he realises that he's responsible for all of the world's problems. You know?
Yeah. You're not even allowed to hate the Germans either.
No,
that's not what Granddad. That's not what Granddad told me. Who was actually in the war. In a prisoner of war camp.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, so who's your third?
Right, so there's strong rounds to this one. I'm going for a chap called Ollie London.
Oh yeah.
Who people may have seen online. He's changed his name to Jimin and now identifies as Korean.
Jimin.
Jimin.
Okay, you're spelling Jimin?
Jimin. So,
Jimin.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jimin.
As a short for Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Anyway, so what he's done is he's to identify as Korean because he's always felt like a Korean person.
Right.
And
Are you
always
allowed
wants
to
be
do
Korean.
that? I didn't think you could
well,
do
he's
that.
had an operation to give him essentially Korean eyes.
Dear me.
Imagine I don't know how Dr. Lin will have felt about that whole thing, but there we are.
I'm not sure you can actually have Korean eyes, can you?
Well, no. This is the point. I even felt a bit squiffy saying that. I was like, I don't know, what so eyes, right? And you say, identify as Korean. I think you should identify as a bit of a. You've got 18
that's a biological fact.
Yeah, he wouldn't even have to have the operation.
No. He'd have to come out.
Save himself a few bob.
So anyway, 18 operations at the cost of £150,000.
Blimey.
So he's not skimped on it. That's it. But the worst thing about this is he's an influencer. He's an influencer.
Right.
I mean, so we're now going to end up with loads of kids wanting to identify as Korean.
But this is the trouble with this whole influencer thing, is that people will do almost anything if they think it's going to make them money. Because some of them who are, supposedly successful at it, make a lot of money doing stuff on Instagram. And some of it may be dodgy, some of it might be things that they shouldn't be making money from. Yeah. But it's a very weird world that I think, certainly I don't understand.
No, I don't understand. And I thought the woke were against cultural appropriation. How can you get worse than actually having plastic surgery to change your eyes to look more oriental and then pretending you're Korean? I think he's now called transracial.
Yeah, transracial.
And so he identifies transracial.
Is that a new thing?
I mean, how rude is it, though?
I mean,
think it's really racist.
It's terrible.
Is that another gender?
Well, it's also, it's like you have a stereotype idea of what is a Korean person, so you are that. It's like, you have a stereotype idea of what a woman is, so you dress and then you are a woman. No, just you can identify who you like and what you like, but you can't legally be recognised as something you're not.
Well, he says that's where I'm from. I've always been Korean. That's my country.
But
well, it's not.
It's not.
No. But this is the other thing now that we're being taught, our kids are being taught in school, that if you say something, then it's true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is a bit
We
of a
believe
worrying
you.
development.
Hashtag I believe
yeah, I believe you.
You're validated.
But you've just said something which is entirely wrong and untrue and ridiculous.
Yes.
But I believe it.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's where we are.
That is what we are. It's the total suspension of logic, isn't it? And I do, again, it comes back to, I'm quite concerned about what children must think about the world now, I think that's quite terrifying. But yeah, there's no logic there. And also, I think, is it any wonder why we're essentially breeding a generation of absolute snowflakes?
Yeah. I mean, I think most kids, and I mean, you've got them, I've got them, I think most of them are a lot more sensible than this. They don't buy into all of this. The people that tell us in newspaper columns and in sort of, shows on television that this is what our young people are thinking. I don't think they are.
The only
I think they're a lot more like us than we'd like to admit.
You're right, and they are, but the vulnerable children, the children who are from backgrounds where they don't feel like they belong or they're going through any mental health issues, they're the ones these people target.
Yeah.
You will feel whole and complete if you join our identity group where you can be a victim.
Well, we talked about it last week with the St Paul's Girls' School thing, where they decided they're not going to call the head girl anymore, even though it's still called St Paul's School for Girls. Yeah. Right? And apparently, I was watching some conversations about it, and the sort of the trendy thing to be in St Paul's is kind of gender neutral.
Yeah.
And they're encouraging all these girls to be gender neutral, so they don't actually want to be known as girls.
No, it's awful.
And it's kind of a fashion more than it is anything else.
Yeah, but the fashion has consequences because you then see a huge increase in girls transitioning into boys, not because they necessarily want to be boys, but because they want to transition out of being a girl, because it's so horrendous being a girl right now with all the things they have to face with, online porn and social media and bullying and all this sort of stuff. So they then transition into boys, and there have been cases like Keir Bell, where the trans lobbies have been, saying, yeah, you must transition, let's make you infertile. And then, when she comes to 18, she's like, actually, I was just going through a phase, and now I've had my breasts removed, and I can't, it's frightening what adults are doing to children.
It is astonishing.
So schools aren't the safe haven they used to be.
But I mean, even in this weird day and age, that is a weird story. I have to say.
Yeah.
And he's certainly a plank.
Oh, he's definitely
Korean or otherwise.
Yeah.
So, you're...
It's a total plank. My third one is, it had me laughing, but it is so awful I shouldn't laugh. I don't know her name, but my third plank is a woman in a yellow jacket with sunglasses who...
It is funny.
She caused an almighty pile-up of shaved legs and lycra on the Tour de France. I have never seen such a domino effect of cyclists just going pew pew, because the Wally, the plank, took a giant cardboard poster saying something like "Allez, omme, oppe."
It didn't even say anything interesting. I think it was something like "Hello, Grandma and Grandpa" or something.
Hey, Grandma, hey, Grandpa, and she shoves it in the road just
and they weren't
as all
even in the race.
cyclists come by, whacking them, clipping them. They all pile up. She does a runner.
Yeah.
She completely.
I
mean, exactly. Tens of £1,000s worth of damage to these posh bikes. Injuries everywhere.
Quite a lot of injuries. Chris Froome, I think, had to leave the race, didn't he?
Exactly. Years of training, and she does a runner. The French have now. There's like a manhunt on for this woman. The law enforcements are out trying to find evidence everywhere and interviewing witnesses.
She'll probably turn up in Dover.
Probably turn up in Dover with that yellow jacket on.
Using the sign as a raft.
Because everybody knows if you come this way, nobody will ever find you.
No.
I don't know. Ever find
you
you.
disappear into the countryside.
Yeah. She's now being sued. So it's like got all the Inspector Clouseaus and Poirots around rummaging to try and find this woman. And bless it, I mean, it's kind of the sort of thing any plank would do. Totally harmless.
I have no sympathy, though, for the Tour de France people, because it's the most ridiculously badly organised race in the world. There are people running after the cyclists. They've got them when they're going up the mountain. There's people sort of waving things at them. There's cars careering around.
Got a cup of piss tossed over him.
Yeah.
By an angry Frenchman.
Listen, who can blame him? But I mean, they do seem to get very close to the action. And you're kind of going, this doesn't seem very safe to me. I'm surprised they don't have more accidents.
Well, I mean, but can you imagine waking up this morning knowing that the whole of France are talking about you? They've got you on cameras everywhere. You're at the airport. You're the woman in the yellow jacket, and you're now in hiding.
Presumably she just loses the yellow jacket. They'll never find her. I mean, I'm not a master criminal or anything, but I would suggest getting a different jacket.
That was definitely a greater mistake to make her. The poor thing. So I feel a bit sorry
the other reason I've noticed with the Tour de France is it doesn't seem to happen in France an awful lot. It started in England the other year.
That's true.
And I was going, How is that possible? It's the Tour de France. You know, they have the Tour of Italy, they have the Tour of Great Britain, but why does the Tour de France have to start in Britain?
Yeah,
that's true.
I don't understand.
I thought it was weird, especially because I didn't imagine the French would have been in particular favour of that. It started in Yorkshire, didn't it?
Yeah.
But I just thought it was
beef.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought it would be a bit of a bizarre thing to do. But fundamentally, I think anyone who goes and physically goes out of their way to personally attend a cycling event probably needs their head looking at anyway. So I mean, maybe that explains why she thought she'd get away with it.
It is a particularly French sport, isn't it? But I mean, you might not remember, but in 2012, when the Olympics was on, and everyone started getting into the cycling.
God.
You'd get on a train and you'd hear these two guys. It's always blokes. I mean, I have this thing about cyclists. Whenever you see them out on the street, it's always men.
Yeah.
It's always middle-aged men trying to save their lives, wearing lycra. There's about one woman for every 10 men, right?
That's true.
And everyone was talking about, did you see the peloton on that? And you're kind of going, you didn't even know that word a month ago. Now you're talking about pelotons. It's so boring.
It is.
It's literally, I mean, I can understand people watching Formula One. It's quite sort of glossy, it's quite sexy. Cycling is none of those
sexy.
things.
If I wanted to watch a load of European men,
And they're all on drugs
pumped
anyway.
up full of drugs wearing lycra, I'd go to GAY. I
don't
need.
going to say you go to Brussels Parliament.
Yeah, and you don't have to buy a bike either.
Yeah. But that's my nickname.
Yeah.
Did you see the video? So one of the guys that was clipped had to do a video calling for restraint from the fans because they were worried that these cyclist fans were all going to go on a witch hunt for this poor woman. I'm like, God, I'm not sure they're that interesting.
It's a very
cycling
weird thing,
fans
isn't
that
it?
are going to do that.
No, it is. I mean, it was always one of those things. When I used to work in newspapers, there was a couple of sports journalists who were really into cycling. And you just thought, that's just a bit odd, mate. I'm sorry. Most people want to get on football, watch the rugby, tennis is on, Wimbledon, the golf. You like cycling.
It's very lonely,
and a lot of them did it because they thought it was kind of just a bit cool and a bit unusual. But it isn't cool.
No, it's not. And actually, recreational cycling as well is something that in Patrick Christie's Britain gets banned. Your head is on a spike.
Really?
Yeah. It's when they go 3 abreast on a country lane and then you beat them and they turn around and they give it to you. I've got somewhere to go here, mate. I'm stuck behind
You also have a very large car, so they're not really what right fight, are they?
So are they just all planks? We just make
Well, I would say most of them are, actually. I mean, I have some sympathy with people who are what I call hardcore people. There's a few people that come in to work here on bikes all the time. But I always say to them, not many of you out there today when it's pouring with rain. And even this guy I'm talking about, hates the idea of these kind of fair weather cyclists because when the weather's nice, you literally can't move for them. Thousands of them. Oh, I like cycling. No, you didn't like it in the rain. You didn't like it yesterday.
I'll be watching out for you with your poster on the London roads trying to knock a few off now, Mike.
Well, listen, sometimes I've got a bit of a blind spot around the old Range Rover. I might knock one of them over.
People who are using penny farthings now, like Jeremy Vine as well.
God.
That is so pretentious.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't.
I actually don't understand how his wife looks at him, to be honest with you.
No,
Well, that's another story altogether. But he's not in it this week. I'm going to go for Keir Starmer for my final nominee because as we're recording this, we're leading up to the big game between England and Germany, and he keeps tweeting out about it like he knows about football and really, really likes football. And we all know that Keir Starmer is literally the plank of planks of all time. He's a lawyer. He's never really done very much like most ordinary people have done. He lives quite near Arsenal. That's about as close as it gets.
Yeah, you can't drown in his personality.
But he's actually putting out emojis now on his Twitter. I'm sorry to say, one, I don't think he understands really, because one of them is a watch, right? And the other one is a pair of eyes. And then it says, 5 p.m. approaching, hashtag it's coming home.
Oh dear.
And then he says that the staff who are working should get time off to watch the England game. I mean, does he know what people do? We don't all finish work at 5 o'clock anymore, Keir. People can actually take time off at 4 o'clock. Some people don't even work until 7 o'clock at night. Other people work in the morning. Other people work at weekends. Some people have days off during the week. I mean, it's just complete and utter idiocy, it seems to me. 5 p.m. approaching. Why would you say that?
And so passionless, so without any passion.
And also, he sent the
emotions.
tweet out at 12:07, and that's quite a long way away from 5 p.m.
It is.
I mean, 5 p.m. approaching tells me it's inside the hour.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe 10 past 4.
Yeah.
Then you would say 5 p.m. approaching.
It's a desperate bid for him, isn't it, to try to show that he cares about this country. I think that's what it is. I think someone said to him, you know what, they'll love this kid, they'll love it. If you keep banging on about England against Germany, then people will lap it up. It's probably one thing that they add in the focus groups. I mean, Keir Starmer's apparently spending tens of thousands of pounds on these focus groups for them to try to be less mystified about why the British public hates him. Don't kneel down for the BLM stuff. At least, pretend to like our flag, sing the national anthem and deliver Brexit.
Well, you'll probably
Simple.
not be surprised to know that the tweet hasn't gone well.
Oh, really?
No.
So here's the first 4 responses. This one from Jackie. So, you have nothing better to do. Can I suggest you publish the Ford report if you have a minute? Next one from Stephen. Resign. Next one from Peter. You've tweeted 3 times about the England game in a week, twice in 24 hours, more than any single political issue during a week of big news. I do not understand your strategy as leader of the opposition.
That's actually really measured for Twitter as well, isn't it?
And then next one, some of us have to work. We don't have the luxury of being able to bunk off early.
Yeah.
Next one. Haven't you got more important things to do? I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Embarrassing that you can call for time off to watch the football, but not proper sick pay for people to take time off when they're ill with COVID. You are truly sickening. So,
well, the great
so once again, the advice to Sir Keir has gone really, really well.
He'll probably have a focus group to work out why his tweet didn't go very well.
Yeah.
Well, can you imagine he'll be sitting there, he'll be looking at it going, why is this happening?
Why don't they like me? I said I liked
You told me
England.
this would be good. And they're all going, oh. You know, so he's had about 85 different advisors in the last week, hasn't he? They keep sort of sacking themselves with every election defeat that comes along. He can't be hanging around for long, can he?
I don't know.
I think the Euros, that'll be his last Euros as leader of the Labour Party, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He'll probably end up tweeting something like "Well done, Germany" if they win as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, for fair play and recognition of their contribution to the
All
EU.
is forgiven.
I know.
Absolutely. Hopeless.
Very funny.
Well, I think that's our lot. We've got to carry one over, and for a very, very long time, almost every carryover has been Harry and Meghan. But I think I'm right in saying they haven't actually done anything this week, have they?
Not really.
Harry's come here.
He's come here for Diana's statue.
But he's been good enough to go into quarantine, so we don't have to see him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which has been good.
polite.
Although I suppose he did get himself into a great big Cadillac Escalade to be driven to LAX, to get on a massive jumbo jet, to fly all the way here, to get into a huge Land Rover
God.
and be taken to Windsor Frogmore Cottage, which we've paid for, where he stays absolutely rent-free.
He's
Yes.
so carbon conscious.
Maybe we should make it him.
Maybe.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe he's
Well,
just the.
I'll offer you Extinction Rebellion as a possible carryover, because they've been busy. They seem to now specialise in dumping things outside buildings. Like this week, they've been demonstrating outside this building. They were threatening to demonstrate at the print plant again. They dumped a load of horse manure outside Daily Mail headquarters. And I mean, you know, it's just kind of going, what's wrong with you?
I know. I think it's the People's Vote lot didn't have a lot to do after Brexit actually got delivered. So a few of the extremists were like, "What can we do now? What can we do now? Oh, I know. We'll join this gang so we can," because they don't have jobs a lot.
Also,
of them, so they're just
isn't
hanging
it funny
out,
how
destroying
most of the activity seems to take place during the sort of university holidays when they're not at university anymore?
Well, I came out of this office at the weekend and saw a load of police, loads of police, not really any Extinction Rebellion people particularly. And then as I walked down just Borough High Street here, there was a big pile of horse manure.
Oh, really?
And 2 police officers just watching it.
Standing it. Just
Watching it. I went for lunch, I came back, still was watching it.
What did they think was going to happen?
What's going to happen to this horse manure? Move
they're
it or don't.
Maybe they're waiting for somebody to climb out of it.
Yeah.
Oh yes, probably. Stick of the dump. Like, hello.
Matt Hancock.
Yeah, Matt Hancock. I'm where
Actually,
I
I'll
belong.
go back in.
This is the naughty corner.
Safer in here.
Yeah, my wife pulled on us over the other night.
Karma will get him.
So here we are. So we're at that point now. Patrick, you'll remember that we now have to knock the 3 of each of ours down to 1.
Okay.
So would you like to pick Belinda's?
Oh gosh, go on,
I
whiz me through it.
was Merkel.
Yeah.
Then I was Batley and Spen Labour Council, and then I was a woman in the yellow coat.
I mean, this is a tough one. I think the one thing I would love to give it to Merkel just because I think, but what that woman in the yellow coat did.
I think that's a pretty spectacular bit of plankery.
Spectacular plankery.
I mean, if it wasn't for Matt Hancock, I think she might win the lot.
Yeah.
You know, to be honest. Right, so you want to pick mine?
Yes, go
So
again.
I've got to go with schools
Yeah.
in general, Sir Keir Starmer and Gina Coladangelo.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Gina.
Gina. Okay.
Gina with her coffee
Okay.
from New Jersey, because I think women need to also take a lot of responsibility
agree.
for their part in affairs and breaking up of families. And
Yes.
so just in the name of equality, and also for her bad taste.
Bad taste in men, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Although the
yeah.
first guy looks at least, reasonably
All right,
presentable.
bad taste for a man.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you. Okay, so I pick yours.
Well, I mean, so I had the FA, I had Ollie London, now known as Jimin,
Oh yes.
and Matt Hancock.
Well, it's got to be Matt, hasn't it? I mean, he's got to win it. hasn't he?
Matt is like king.
This could
King
be the
Kong
first time
of
that
like-
a man and a woman who are in the same relationship have been in the top
yes.
3 together.
God.
So it's another
true.
first.
Yeah. They were
So would we
really
say,
good.
I think here's a kind of a poetic way to do it, and if you agree, is we can have Matt Hancock and Gina Coladangelo separated by the woman in the yellow jacket.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great
I think
idea.
that's good. I think that's really lovely.
We're not going to be accused of blaming the man more than the woman, are we?
No, because he also was the hypocrisy, had the hypocrisy element
Yes.
to it and all the rest of it, which made him extra planky.
Yes, I think that's absolutely fair. Now, I have to say, Matt Hancock, I think it may be the first time he's ever won it.
Stuff.
But he's been on. He's definitely on the top 10.
I'll top off a lovely week.
And
for
has
him.
been. So, Matt Hancock, and I mean, with a side order, I suppose, of Gina, you are the plank of the week. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.